All right, everybody, it is Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Central. It is time for Conversations with Cougars. And I am so pleased to have Kash, Forrester, Deaton on tonight. How are you this evening, Kash?
Doing good.
Good. And where are you in this world? Where are you? Where's home?
We're in Dothan, Alabama.
Very good. Well, for those of you who weren't in school with Kash or happen to not be related to her, and I suspect we'll have a few folks on tonight who were, she cheered from let's see, 04 to 08, graduated, I think in 08 from Northview, went on to Troy, teaching, coaching, raising family, so many awesome things. And I've got so many stories to ask about, and I know that she's going to share. But before we do that, Kash, tell us a little bit about what's going on with you and the family right now. Just catch us up.
Well, I graduated from Northview in 2008. And then I went to Troy for 4 years and I got a degree in math.
Mhm.
I came home and worked for a little bit at the church, and then can't really do much with just a math degree. So went and got the education part, and I've been teaching math ever since at Dale County High School.
Very good. What grades do you teach?
I've taught most grades 9th through 12th, but right now I'm teaching 11th and 12th grade math.
When you started your teaching career, how old were you when you started teaching?
I would have been 23, 24.
And some of the students were probably 17 or 18 at the time?
Yeah, so normally like they'll stick you with 9th grade to begin with. So I taught 9th grade my first few years, and then kind of got to move up a little bit.
Well, as you know from the fellas who start so young coaching and teaching, it's easy for them to grow a beard or facial hair or just do something to differentiate their ages and maybe give a little bit of not seniority, but authority figure, if you will. What were some of your tricks you learned your first year or two?
Well, all the women teacher will tell you, like, pull your hair back, go ahead and be strict right to begin with, things like that. Those were the two biggest things. Wear glasses.
There have to be tricks of the trade, I'm sure. But we've got some folks who are rolling in. Jonelle Walsingham Kirkland says to tell you hello. And of course, Laura Sermon Hatcher is with us. Kash, you've got such a unique, awesome first name. Is that your given first name, or is that a nickname that you inherited along the way, or what's the origin of Kash?
Well, actually, my name is Catherine. My mom's name is Catherine. My grandma's middle name is Catherine. No one decided to do new things. DR's name is David, and my dad's name is David.
Right.
So I guess they just weren't very creative. So when they used to call my great grandmother Kash, that was her nickname. And so I just got the nickname handed down. I never got to meet her, but she sounds amazing. Well,
from the information you sent to me, it sounds like you two are living a pretty amazing life so far in your young life. But Kash, that nickname, again, another Southern tradition to not only pass down the birth certificate names or the family names, but also the family nicknames. I just think that's a really cool Southern tradition that I think it's a lost art, frankly, or a lost tradition at times.
Our little girl, actually, her name is Jackson Ann. She's got a double name, but it's made up of our grandmother's middle names.
Very good. And does Jackson Ann have a nickname yet?
Sometimes they'll call her J.A., of course.
Well, very good. I want to talk about growing up. Were you born in Dothan? Have you lived in Dothan your whole life?
Yep. And really hadn't moved very far in the same neighborhood. We grew up a few blocks down behind like Chick-fil-A, Garden District area. And grew up, went to Northview, and then obviously when I graduated college, came back.
Well, before you made it to Northview, where did you go? Take us elementary, middle school, take us that progression.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I don't think they're even around anymore. We did Montana, maybe Heard first, then Montana, Girard, which is when we got to start doing sports.
Right. Right.
It combined our 8th grade year. We stayed at Girard. My mom taught at Girard Elementary. And so we stayed at Girard, played, my brother played football and I cheered, and then went on to Northview.
Well, I know that you cheered all through your Northview years, and I hear that you cheered in middle school, but what about playing sports? Were sports part of your life as well? Or were you really on the more of the cheer track?
Yeah, I mean, really, I just had to find a way to be involved with what was going on with everybody else in our family. And cheer, you could be around everything. So I did run track a little bit. I talked about playing tennis, but cheer is a year-round sport. People don't think of it like that, but you have basketball, and then you kind of get ready, and then it's football again. So there's not much breaks.
Well, and they also ought to appreciate the fact that, frankly, it's a sport and you guys are athletes. Because
absolutely,
I don't know to the level of your gymnastics training or cheer training with tumbling and flying and all of that, but frankly, what you see on the sidelines from high school all the way through college and even younger, it's remarkable what they can do these days. And I'm sure, and you're not that old, I'm not trying to say that, but from the time period you were in high school to what they do now, I'm sure is light years from where it used to be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's like evolved, like before they, some of those old Northview yearbooks, you could see some crazy stunts and things that they would do. And then, it was like, oh, we have to be careful now. And then there was rules, and it kind of went up and down. My senior year, we had an amazing coach my senior year. She took us to Disney World and we got to compete.
Wow.
So
who is your coach?
Miley Gowing.
Okay.
She only coached, she was there the end of my junior and my full senior year. And then she left and went to Birmingham. Her husband was here in Dothan, was a preacher at one of the churches. But I wonder, I always think, what if she would have been there all 4 years? Maybe that's why I decided to be a cheer coach, just because she was such a big influence, not only in my life of taking us to Disney World, but just like she just cared for people and loved well. And I just thought she was amazing.
That's awesome. It is. I always love to learn a person's journey and who their influences were, whether it was a positive one and it stuck with you for the rest of your life or for a certain period, or maybe there are negative ones that you really just I'm not going to copy those things, but I learned something from them. But I want to talk about who was the better athlete, or who is still the better athlete. First of all, who was born first, you or DR?
So he's a minute older.
A minute older. But
yeah,
you would say in response to that, what?
Well, he would argue that he got to get like the front seat, or he got to do things first because he was older. We actually, a couple of weeks ago, talking about who's more of the athlete, we decided we would try to do cartwheels. Our girls are in the same, like my daughter will be 4 in November and his little girl is about to be 5. They were wanting us to do cartwheels, and he could do it. But I could do more.
By chance, is there video evidence of this competition?
I took one of him. Send it to you.
Well, I'll just go ahead and tell you, I have full permission from him to post that video. So should you want to send it or post it, you go for it.
I'll have to do that.
Talk about the sibling rivalry, if there was one, as children. I don't know the world of being a twin, but I do know the world of having siblings. I'm the oldest of 3. So I know what from being the oldest meant from a athletics or rivalry standpoint, but you got to take us a little bit into that world of being a sibling. And what was that like for the two of y'all growing up, and competitions and just whatever was that about?
Well, it's really cool. Mom always said that she was so thankful she didn't have two girls or two boys, so they wouldn't be in competition. And I think about that a lot now as a parent. I'm like, she's right. I'm so thankful we didn't have to do competition that way. We just had maybe competition in a little bit different. We had different strengths and weaknesses. So like where I might have been better at school, he was probably better. We're just getting out the bath.
Hello. Who do we have here?
This is Jackson Ann, who needs her hair brushed.
Hey, Jackson Ann, thank you for joining us. It's good to see you.
Hey, we're in her playroom.
Well, thank you for letting us use the playroom for a little bit, Jackson Ann.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, okay, I understand. I don't like to share my room either.
It's time to go to bed, isn't it?
It's getting to be about that time for me too, it's after my bath. But I bet the two of y'all were also your biggest allies and biggest supporters, not just cheering literally, but figuratively for each other's accomplishments as well. Am I fair to say that?
Oh, for sure. And like I said, I just had to find, we grew up like talking about football, knowing about football. And so, like I said, I just had to find a way to get involved and be in the story. So that's why I cheered. So, and Mom talks a lot about when we were little, before she split us up in like kindergarten, and I think we were in the same class until maybe third grade. And she was like, I finally had to split you up because you would do the stuff that he couldn't do for him. And my dad would always say he was born with a wife and he didn't know it. So, we had some space.
Yeah, and I'm sure your parents had some real forethought about doing that. But I'm sure there is only the bond between twins. Those who are not twins can't appreciate that. But I'm sure at times you really relied upon each other. But Kash, I want to welcome. We've got Donnie Grill is in the house. We've got Alana Andrews Gray. Thank you both for being here. We got Tracy Kazai Daniels, who was on last week with us. Tracy, I hope you're doing well at the beach. I'm jealous. But I've got Kash Deaton with us, who cheered from 04 to 08 and has become a teacher and a coach since then, and has beautiful Jackson Ann hanging nearby. Talk a little bit about learning the sport of football. Was it just thrust upon you and you just had to learn it because of the family dynamics, or did you truly become to appreciate the sport, and then you were then the one on the cheer squad having to explain maybe to your cheer mates, hey, this is really what's going on, so we need to be doing this type of cheer?
Oh yeah, that's so. Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a choice. My granddad, Bobby Sermon, coached at Dothan High School. Today would have been his 85th birthday today. So special.
Wow, what a special day. Thank you for
July
telling
6th, a fun day. Yep. So with him, and then my dad played for him when they were runners up for their state championship his senior year. So how many times we heard that story.
Oh yeah.
Like why they lost, how they lost.
Was this the Homewood game or the Mountain Brook game?
Mountain Brook.
Okay. Because I know that Dothan played back-to-back years and lost back-to-back years to those two schools.
It would have been the 82. I don't know.
82.
I don't know.
Where did your dad go to high school?
Oh wait, it wouldn't have been 82. It would have been
the mid 70s.
Yeah.
It would have been probably 75, 76.
Yep.
And that would have been a couple of years before Dothan. That would have been a couple of years before Dothan High split up to create Northview in the fall of 78.
Yeah, and then they won some state championships after that.
Yeah, we did.
You're part of those teams?
Well, Northview won its first state championship in 81, and I was in 8th grade, and then I was a senior the 85 year. But not about me. This is about you.
That's amazing.
And you learning the sport of football. And how advanced were you compared to your friends on the cheer squad? Did you have to teach them what was going on?
Yeah, we always start with, if you have the ball, those are offensive cheers.
That basic, huh?
That was the easiest way to do it. You get 4 tries to get 10 yards.
Well, going into Northview, did you know when you left middle school, when you left Girard, did you know you wanted to cheer once you got over to Northview? Was that just kind of just like you knew your brother was going to be playing football or playing different sports? Did you know that cheering was going to be part of your world as a high schooler?
Oh yeah, I hope so. But cheer is different from football. You have to try out, and you have these judges that don't know you, and you hope you don't mess up. So I was always jealous of the boys. Like they weren't gonna cut them.
No, and you led me to where I wanted to go with this was the nervousness, I assume, the stress, the jitters, whatever the description. When you're an 8th grader trying out for or coming into 9th grade and you're trying out for that fall, do you remember that time period about what that was like?
I do. I remember it was awful. The senior girls would like lead it and you would run. It was terrible. But we got through it.
You did, and maybe I don't know if you figured out which track Jackson Ann is going to take, or is she going to do both cheer and play sports? Do we know yet?
I don't know. Great question. She loves gymnastics, so.
That's great. And she comes from a big family of athletes, so you never know where she's going to end up.
Yeah, I like to think that, but we'll see what she wants to do.
That's right, or she may do something completely different. But I want to welcome Ashley Kelly Ziegenfelder. Thank you, Ashley, for joining us tonight. And Kash, let's talk about
with Ashley.
That's I was going to say. You're going to have some other. Oh, and I got Kevin Jackson. Kevin, I'm so proud of you about the golf tournament coming up, bud. Let's keep promoting that in our group. I hope you fill up all the spots and raise a bunch of money. Kash, being a cheerleader or playing sports when you get into 9th grade, did that help the transition into 9th grade from a social standpoint as well?
Oh yeah, I remember that first day in the commons area at break. That it made it so much easier. I remember looking at somebody and being like, is it like this every day? Because the entire school was in the middle, hanging out, and we wouldn't have known other than some upperclassmen cheerleaders. So that was amazing.
Well, you did have an upper hand, or you had inside track, if you will. But that common space, I don't know if you've seen the pictures in our group, but that common space when I was in school, that was all the rows of lockers just stacked one after another. And it was insane. There were like 800 lockers in that space. By the time you guys came through, I think they were all around the perimeter of maybe the library and other parts of the school. That was an architectural failure, because when you tried to get that many kids and that, you only had 5 minutes between classes, it was a disaster. But at least you guys had that open space y'all could congregate in.
That's right.
Well, you get into 9th grade and you get into the football season and things are going along. But when you're in the school, how often did you see your brother? Or did you know each other's schedules? Did you have classes together? Or you really just didn't cross paths that much?
Yeah, we had a handful of classes together, but for the most part, we didn't like go throughout the day together. I don't think he would have done that anyway. And that probably works best.
Well, you needed your space. You needed to create your own social identities. What about, did y'all ride to school together, or did that become a thing that you didn't after a while?
Yeah, that was fun. We had some older classmen, which also helped with the transition in our neighborhood we rode with, and we would ride with them. And then, of course, when we turned 16, we shared a car.
Sure.
It just made sense.
But your schedules really weren't the same. I know you may have had cheer or other responsibilities after school, but he was probably there till 5, 6 o'clock most days.
Yeah, it seemed to work okay. We would leave about the same time somehow. I did a little bit more extracurricular than he did. Like we had SGA and we had different things like that. So there was always something going on in the afternoons.
I want you to take us to pep rallies. I want you to take us to the experience either as a 9th grader when you're seeing them for the first time as a Northview student. And I don't know if 9th grade cheer participated or not. But then as you progress to sophomore, junior, senior years, what kind of school spirit? Take us into one of those not evenings, but one of those events. How fun were they, or were they stressful?
So when we were at Northview, and I think it was like this up until the end. Ashley would know because she's coached the last few years, but 9th and 10th grade were a JV squad. And so you would actually get to cheer towards your class basically. And then 11th and 12th grade were the varsity squad. So yeah, we got to be involved. My freshman year, we only won one game. So school spirit, it was like there was non-existent. And that was super memorable. I remember somebody looked at me and one of the girls after a game, they're like, how many more times can we hear somebody tell us it builds character? Like each loss builds character. Yeah. So we only got to cheer with varsity that year, homecoming and Dothan High anyway. But now I will say, obviously, school spirit changed after we beat Opelika, but those pep rallies were rough. They were tough.
I was going to say the Opelika game really was like a state championship atmosphere. I've talked to so many people on this show who participated either as an administrator or teacher, player, coach, whatever the situation was. That changed a lot of things, at least from a school spirit standpoint. But way back when I was in school, we had a 9th grade cheer squad because they had a 9th grade football team. Right. Then we had 10th and 11th mainly were JV, and then 11th and 12th were the varsity. But usually it was the varsity who created the pep rallies and did all the decorations, and they were very elaborate. And
I've seen pictures.
Well, I was going to ask you, did y'all have themes to the weeks, to the pep rallies, or how did those come together?
Yeah, so you're right. Varsity would plan. And so we got to, obviously when we got older, we got to plan them. But yeah, every home game had some sort of theme and the pep rally would go with it. That was so fun to me. But, as far as the boys were concerned, I don't think they thought it was necessary. Well, and I care more about that.
Well, and it's, some of the ball players, they're just there because they're going through the motions. They have to. The coaches, that's what they make them do. Other guys would probably not admit it, but they secretly really appreciated what was going on and kind of got into it. Then you had a third group of guys that were just kind of crazy, and they just had the spirit, and it all came out in them. Not too many of those guys. Most try to be cool and play it close to the vest. But I think you're right. The toughest part of it was trying to keep or maintain school spirit, particularly when you have a series of losing seasons. How did you guys deal with that? Because it was your job in part to help keep the school spirit going, even though the guys on the field weren't having much success. Did you feel a responsibility in that regard?
Oh yeah, 100%. And really we were spoiled after that first year. After we beat Opelika, we started winning, and each year we won one game more. Like that next year, I think we went 500, and then we won 6 games. And so it was amazing. We never made the playoffs. But Coach Harris was amazing. Like, he was fun, and he was easy as far as cheer to work with. Sometimes coaches aren't all about that, but he'd let the boys participate in pep rallies. We loved Coach Harris. I mean, I will never forget him. We beat Opelika on a Thursday night. So everyone was supposed to go to school the next day.
Yeah.
They didn't make us come. I think we didn't have to be there till 10 or 11 or something. And I mean, the whole day we get to school and everyone's just outside cheering, and like Coach Harris walks up, and I mean, it was amazing.
Well, it's after the game. Do you remember after the game?
Everyone was on the field, including my grandparents, my parents. Never seen anything like it.
Well, it really it stopped a really dark period of Northview football. That's for sure. Cash, we've got some other folks rolling in. I want to make sure you know that they're here. We got Brian Marsh. We got Damon Glasgow. Thank you guys for showing up. I got Kash Deaton in the house tonight. And Kash, was being a cheerleader was it central to your identity in high school, or was it just part of who you were in high school? I don't know if I'm asking it the right way, but to some, being a football player, that's what I stood for. That's what people knew me. What was the cheerleading status to you during the
Yeah, I would
time you were at
agree. That was
school?
certainly my identity. That was my favorite thing about school. That's what made me excited about school. Obviously I liked math too. That's why I became a math teacher.
Well, did you cheer for other sports as well, or just during the football season?
We cheered for football and basketball, and I loved basketball season. Even as a coach, I loved basketball season too. You just get to be closer. It's a lot less pressure. You're not having to do pep rallies. It's a little bit smaller of a crowd. So I loved both sports. Obviously, I loved football more because my brother played, and then the last 2 years Preston played with him.
But
so it was special.
Wait, neither of those guys made it onto the basketball court?
Preston played on like a 9th grade team for a bit, I think.
He shared about that. That's for sure.
Yeah, but I didn't get a cheer for him.
I can't remember which one of them said that they were built for football, not for basketball.
Like after DR tackled the first baseman, like in 3rd grade or whatever.
He knew where his strengths were. But going back to basketball, you're right. Basketball is much more of an intimate sport in that you're so close to the action. The players are not covered up with all of the football gear and helmets and masks and things. You can see emotion. You can get run over accidentally if you're not if you don't watch what you're doing. Kash, we got some other folks. One of the cheerleaders during my time, Missy Wright Morris, is joining us. Hey, Missy, it's good. Thank you for showing up tonight. Kash, I don't worry about the children being everywhere. That it happens. I think it makes it even a better conversation. I don't want you to be stressed about that at all. What about if you weren't in school and you weren't cheering, where in Dothan? Now you're old enough, the statute of limitations is long expired, anything you may or may not admit to tonight. But where would you and your friends hang out? Where were some fun places to go just to get away a little bit?
We spent a lot of time at Mama Rose's with the ranch and the crackers if we couldn't afford actual meal. Some sweet tea.
Did you have certain tables
we spent some time at a couple of friends. Yeah, probably we would have a section on the end. We spent a lot of time there, and then we really spent a lot of time in mine and DR's backyard. So people would come, and we kind of had the same group of friends, so that was fun.
Well, I was going to say, were y'all the house that everybody came to?
It was a good, we had a hangout place there. There was another set of twins at Northview when we were there, and that was another house to hang out at too, as Amy and Matt Marquette. And so we would kind of swap between the two.
Very good. That's awesome. Oh, Coach LeBrian Stewart says to tell you hello. You're his favorite Northview cheerleader.
Coach Stewart wanted me to come coach cheer for him forever ago. I wish I could have.
I bet.
Years never lined up right.
He is building a great program with the Beehive over there, and I know he's got a fundraiser going on. So if you guys are inclined to support Coach Stewart and what he's doing, please reach back out to him. Kash, let's talk about Friday nights at Rip Hughes Stadium. Did that become a special place for you, or is that a place that really you just hadn't thought about in a while?
It was a special place before we played at Northview because we spent so many Friday nights being drug up there with Daddy Bob, regardless of who was playing. If we even knew anybody, we would go in on the side entrance and just kind of sit there on the side and watch games with Daddy Bob. And so that it was already special. And so, and he was there every time we were there. So to me, he got honored when I was in college on the field there. So special place. Rip Hughes is great.
Well, I was going to say,
we spent a lot of time decorating, but I don't think any of the boys, it didn't make us win ball games, but we sure enjoyed decorating.
Oh, absolutely. And, they did see that. They may not have acknowledged it to you, but they appreciated that. Now, who in the family, here's where you're going to spill some family secrets. Who in the family would bring their version of butter or margarine or something whenever somebody would go across the parking lot to go get the bread from the bread factory and bring it over into the stands. Did y'all used to do that? That was a big thing when I was growing up.
That's amazing. No, we never did that. I remember there was DR would remember exactly who we played. It was a JV game. We won. And, we would bus over there and then bus back to the school afterwards. And they were just so excited that we won. The boys were on the bus just like cheering about the bread. I mean, it was like 9th and 10th grade guys. And I remember them cheering about the bread factory. Other than that, we didn't go over there.
It became, and maybe over the years it either shut down or it wasn't as active, but on Friday nights, you would absolutely see a line of people walking across the parking lot to go get bread on Friday nights because the smell was just completely into the stadium. But you're talking about the boys cheering for bread. It's amazing how food impacts high school kids. That's great.
They were just so excited. They would like cheer about anything they were passing, like bread. Like they were so excited they won. I wish I could remember who we beat.
That's
funny. DR probably
That's
remembers
funny.
the score and who scored. And
Kash, what was fun for you about high school?
Cheer would have been at the top of the list. And really, I have a group of girlfriends that came from Northview, like that we're still good friends now. And really, I think that's not quite heard of as, so that would have been my best, just having those group of girls still together, and we still laugh and have fun memories. And so between that and getting to do sports with DR and Preston, those would have been my favorite. And I also, I am a math teacher. So I have to say, I got to have Miss Jane Folds as my math teacher for all 4 years. Then a couple of times I doubled up on math. So, I mean, obviously I enjoyed her class and took it multiple times. We also, we had DTC and we got to take Wes Grant's drafting class. Lots of fun memories came from that. He would have some classic rock playing, and so those are sweet times.
Yeah, Wes is a few years older than I am. His younger sister, one of his sisters, was a year behind me at school. But you talk about your closest friends, and I bet you still communicate with them quite a bit. Just to share with you, if you think about this, these are the girls and maybe some guys who you grew up with. 10 to 15 years worth of childhood memories for a lot of them, I assume, if you grew up together. You're always going to have those friendships, or maybe it's just in that time period. You may grow away from each other a little bit, or you may move away, but you still have that time period. Kash, I'm the class of 86. I'm meeting with 5 of my buddies this weekend who I graduated high school with and grew up with. So those friendships don't die. They stay with you. And just like with you, just like with DR, Preston, any of you, if you were to get together with your friends and just come up with a common phrase or an event or something that you all have that common memory about, you don't even have to say what it was. Smiles are going to come out. There may be some half truths or some stretched truths in there, but it all takes you back to that time and place. And I want you to take us back to what movies or music were a big influence at the time that you were coming through high school, maybe from pep rallies or riding to the stadiums or going and doing fun things. Who were the big bands or music acts at the time?
We had some NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, and there was some Sister Hazel and things like that. For cheer, they would kind of hang on the boy bands for pep rallies and stuff. We had one of my favorite pep rallies was we had this like blast from the past, and they let us get out old jerseys and cheer uniforms from like back in those locker rooms and stuff. We had a great time. The boys got to do it with us, and we did like a little dance for each like decade. And so that was fun.
Any of that recorded? Did anybody have photos or
Oh
videos
yeah,
from
mom
back
has it
then?
all on those big VCRs. I have no idea how we would watch it, but
Well,
yeah,
she needs to send them to me. I can get them converted and we can get them put up on the site if you guys want to see them, if you want to do that. We can talk about that
that'd be
later.
great.
Oh, I love to see all those old videos. We had the first principal at Northview, Mr. Smith, and he used to end. I talked about this with Tracy and Tina last week, who were my schoolmates. He would end the pep rallies with a poem. Don't
Beat me there, beat me there.
Beat me there. But by the time he would get to the last line and jump up and click his heels, every student in the house was saying it with him and would drown him out. And that we had tremendous school spirit, but that's what comes with, winning the championships back in the 80s. But I don't know if that was ever duplicated, that kind of reaction by students with a principal at prep rallies.
Well, now Stewart, he would do it. So that would have been, I don't know when Coach Stewart came. That would have been maybe our 11th and 12th grade year. He would get on the mic and he would do the chant. And
he would get everybody going.
And he would do the same one. So I thought that was special.
Oh, I didn't realize that, Coach. Maybe I forgot that. I don't know if we addressed that when you came on the show. Kash, take us to Rip Hughes on a Friday night. Take us to, you guys would get there, or obviously early, you'd have to put up your banners, do your thing. But did you have a routine? Did you have, I don't know, superstitions? Did you always park in the same parking spot? Ride with the same girls? Take us into that time.
So we probably did way too much. We would eat like a meal with, we would have like a cheer meal and you would get to eat with JV and you would have a little sister. And so that was super special. They would ride with you. I did have a girlfriend that she had one street you would cut over, and now I can't remember which one it was, but that was on Tate. Maybe you could only cut over on Tate and that's what's going to make you win.
That's right. Right.
So we would cut over on that street. We would park in the same area, and we would get there pretty early because we would stream the whole the line up and down, and then we would line everything with banners. And then once the game started, that was a little bit more serious to me because I didn't want to miss anything. And some reason about football, I was like super emotional if we lost. So and then obviously really fun, super emotional when we won too. We beat Smith Station in overtime our senior year. It's one of my favorite games. I think that might be my favorite, other than the Opelika game. But we had this really great run through banner. My dad built these PVC pipe poles, and we could do several layers, like a 2-story banner. The boys wanted to have banner above their heads after they bust through them.
Well, sure.
And we had figured out how to make the smoke last better with like fire extinguishers instead of the
I'm sorry, smoke? What?
Run through the smoke.
No, I know. I'm just showing my age.
So we figured out how to do those things a little bit more. And that was some of my favorite stuff because the guys enjoyed it so much.
Well, I tell you how far removed I was from high school football. I had never seen an on-field pregame DJ before. Did y'all have those back in the day?
That must have been after me, but we've done it since I've been coaching. That, everything gets bigger every year. And
I think it has to, because I think football is a sport, maybe not in the deep South like in Alabama, but it's losing out to other sports that are more faster. More action is going on, like basketball, for example. But anyway, Kash, you're taking me through some great memories. I hope this is it's bringing back some good memories for you. But you talked about emotions. Emotions are expected by high school kids who are going through something that is so important to them. Clearly, football was important to your family. Clearly, cheering for your brother, yourself, your teammates, your classmates, your cousin, that was important to you as well. So showing emotion, I showed emotion, and most people show emotions one way or the other. But what a lot of us don't have that you had was you had a twin actually playing in the game. And that's what I want to ask about was there any pregame, during the game, or post-game communications between the two of you guys that made it a little bit more, even more special to you?
No, we would not talk until after the game. I
Mhm.
mean, or probably even look at each other.
Mhm.
So, and now after the game, it's not, especially if we won, we could talk all we wanted to. Most of our pictures are from after winning ball games.
Oh, I've seen them, and I figured that, you know, a lot of the athletes, regardless of their position, they're trying to get their focus on. I get that. I get that. But it's also the rare athlete that wants to socialize a little bit and maybe say hello pregame or have a
I
ritual.
think we talked, I can't remember what year it was. I think it was maybe our 10th grade year or 11th grade. I think it was the first time he started.
Mhm.
We played at the Crampton Bowl and they had turf.
Mhm.
And we'd never seen anything like that.
Mhm.
And I remember talking to him about that before the ball game started at that place about the turf. And then we played in a swamp. I don't even know if it's Sampson, maybe. They're the alligators. We played in a swamp. We talked about the swamp one night. Those are the two rare conversations I can remember from playing, you know, for years together. So
when you look back, you've told us a little bit about your Northview experience, but as you reflect back and as you continue to coach and teach, Laura said it was at Satsuma is where you're thinking of.
yeah.
Thank you, Laura.
She was there with her camera, you know.
I'm sure. When you are teaching these kids, whether it's in the classroom, math, whatever it is, or from a cheer standpoint, or track, whatever your authority type position is, what is it that you like to share with them from a lessons standpoint that you underwent or you experienced when you were their age?
My favorite thing to talk about my students with now is I encourage them to get involved. You only have 4 years of high school. Like, so that means you only have 4 years of pep rallies. You only get 5 each year, you know, like, so I always say, get involved as early as you can, as quick as you can, because those are the things that you remember. I mean, you know, other than math, I can't tell you anything about any of my other classes. So get involved, meet some people, and make relationships.
And you know what my generation didn't have to mess with or deal with that was really coming on when you were coming through school at the beginning is dealing with these. And how do you deal as a teacher, as a coach with your students dealing with social media, dealing with the phones?
Yeah. And thankfully we didn't really deal with it much when we were in high school. I think we maybe got a phone when we turned 16 and it didn't have internet. But now I talk to my students a lot. It's hard for me as a teacher to compete with it, with what they're seeing and doing. And so we talk a lot about trying to be present and in the moment, and you might miss something on social media, and that's okay. But yeah, and really it's a whole nother part, a whole nother chapter of being a coach, because you're having to manage and social media and making sure it's appropriate, because especially with cheer, you're an ambassador for the school, including your social media. So that's tough.
And are there rules for the cheer squads about what can be posted in uniform and not, and those kind of things that they have to adhere to?
Yeah, well, obviously you can't, especially when you wear a uniform, you can't be disrespectful in uniform. No drugs, no alcohol, no, you know, things like that. And so that also stands true on social media. Anything that would be in person, you can't have on social media either.
You know, that just adds another, to me, another layer. And maybe it's not stressful to the kids who've grown up with it, but as someone who didn't grow up with that, that would just add another layer of responsibility, another layer of one more thing I've got to follow rules wise that makes maybe our childhoods a little bit less stressful or a little bit less in I guess just taking away from where, as you said, being in the moment, being present, those kind of things.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. It's tough. And it's tough because you're like, do you want to be involved? And because you don't want to miss anything, but then how involved do you want to be? It's tough. It's a for sure balance. And the best thing you can do is talk to students about it.
The best thing you can do is have a younger sibling who will be your hype man or your hype girl and do all your photos for you. And you don't have
I love that.
Well, you got two right there. Maybe you get one going. But what isn't, what's inevitable is we have to graduate high school at some point. Some take 4 years, or excuse me, most take 4 years, some take 5 years, some just never graduate. But at some point you realize my years, my time as being a Northview cheerleader and being a Northview student are coming to a close. It's time to close that chapter, as we do, and move on to the next phase in life. And it can be bittersweet. It can be, senior year can be tough. Junior year, tell me if this resonates with you. About midway through junior year, you are so looking forward to getting out of Dothan. You're leaving high school. You want to go on whatever school, do all these awesome things. So that whole second semester, junior year, your head's in the clouds a little bit. But by senior year, oh, this is the last time we're going to do this and that. And then it's over.
Yep.
And for me, it was bittersweet. Do you remember that time period? I've cheered for the last time. I'm not going to be on the sidelines for my cousin and my brother. You know, it's time to move on. Were you emotional? Were you looking forward to the next challenge in life, or were you really just clinging on to those last days?
Oh, it was emotional. I enjoyed every bit of high school. But I had some friends that were like ready to be done. And so I was kind of the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I didn't know, like, I guess maybe the fall of my senior year, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't decide to go to Troy until I got offered a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it wasn't like I already have a plan, you know, so it was sad. I really enjoyed, that's my senior year was my favorite, obviously.
And this was also the time that you and your brother were about to split, right?
Right. He went and played at Faulkner.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when he moved in that day, and then I moved in a couple weeks later. That was really tough.
I mean, you were only about an hour apart geographically, ultimately,
right,
but
right.
Not in the same house, not riding together, not seeing each other.
Right. Yeah, that was hard.
Well,
and really, I mean, we had talked, I had went to some cheer stuff at Troy, had considered trying out, had tumbled and stunted with some of those people, and I enjoyed it, but my brother it wasn't the same. And so I got to, which was fun. I got to enjoy being apart from him, and I got to enjoy being a student at Troy, and it was only an hour away. It was amazing.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's just all part of the maturation process. You know, you both grew independently, and it probably made you better people and more adult-like, which may or may not have been a good thing at times. But you probably came to appreciate each other a little bit more as well. I'm just speculating. I don't know, but I'm sure it took a period of adjustment.
Oh, for sure.
But after you go off to college, do you remember coming back to Northview or coming back to Rip Hughes? You're not a student in high school anymore. You're a big bad college kid. And how different was that for you?
Yeah, it was hard. That was tough. When we had to come see Preston play. So at the very first couple years, there would be multiple of us that had graduated together that we would go to some games together, but it got smaller as the years went on. And then after I graduated college and was back, Preston's little sister was cheering. So we got to go to some of those, but it was different too. You know, it's just never the same after you're a senior.
Well, you know, your priorities have also changed. In high school, there are certain things that are absolutely the priorities. Your mama, you're not going to make me miss this, or I've got to be here for that, because they're super important. And that's part of the high school experience. And I'm sure as active as a kid you were back in the day with cheer, SGA, and those things, there were things you were not going to miss because they were important. But am I right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
But as you get older, doesn't your perspective change a little bit? And particularly now that you're a parent, you're seeing things in a completely different light. But I know with you still being connected through the high school system experience with a teacher, isn't it just, it's fun to kind of see some of these things now, and you're just like, what was I thinking? Well,
yeah, one of my favorite quotes that it usually hits with my girls at school or really any students, is I always say, whatever they're upset about, I say, will it matter in 5 minutes? And usually they're like, yes. And I'm like, will it matter in 5 days? Usually it doesn't. Will it matter in 5 months? Will it matter in 5 years? It's one of my favorite quotes to say, because let's be realistic. What's really, the problem?
It is, but when hormones are running rampant and people, kids are growing up, it's hard to get some of that across. I want to welcome DC Clark in the house tonight. Hey, DC, good to see you, bud. I'm talking, of course, with Kash Deaton. Kash, I appreciate you sharing some of these memories with us, and I'm going to get you out of here in just a minute or two. But growing up in a household so connected to the city of Dothan and so connected to sports in Dothan, and you being on the inside of it, not a neighbor or a distant relative, there had to have been a sense of pride carrying on the traditions that the family members, each generation's ahead of you, have all participated in. And was that, I guess, maybe, and I guess as part of that, and I don't mean to be rambling, but going to Friday nights with your grandfather to Rip Hughes, for one example, that must be an awesome memory.
For sure. I mean, for a while, it was almost kind of sad that we didn't get to do the Dothan High thing, since mom and, dad had played ball at Dothan High. That's where Daddy Bob coached. That's where mom cheered. But then it's kind of like we got to make our own new thing at Northview, super special, and just some super special coaches that we were around too, like Coach Stewart bringing back the thing, and, it's cool stuff like that. We didn't, we never made playoffs or got to win anything, but we did win a little bit more each year. So that was special to me.
Oh, absolutely. And one coach who played at Dothan and then coached at Northview is just joined us, Coach Randy Hicks, who was a player back in the day and a heck of a coach for many years. Coach, thank you for coming on tonight. And I really would love to get you on this show because you've got so many awesome memories to share with us. Kash, let me leave you with this. Let me let you get out of here. And I appreciate your time tonight and just sharing, but we need some tea on Preston and DR. They've already had their time. They're not going to have the opportunity to defend themselves. So this is your one moment to share a little tea on the boys.
Did they talk about the broken arms? Did DR talk about the broken arms?
I don't think so, but we need to know about the broken arms.
So one summer, Preston was always a little bit bigger than DR and probably a little bit more athletic, like a little bit faster maybe. But there was a season, I think it was in the summer, DR broke Preston's left arm. And then a few weeks later, he broke his right arm. Like after that cast got off, the other arm got broken playing basketball in the church gym. So they did play basketball, but we played at the church.
Well, that was basket brawl. That wasn't basketball. So he broke.
Been playing.
Wait, he broke both arms in the same summer?
Yeah, well, but like as soon as one got healed, the other one got broken.
What do you remember what age that he was at the time?
Oh gosh.
Was he driving at that point or not yet?
It was probably like 9th or 10th, maybe right before driving age. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Well, I had one of those at age 16 and they're not fun, but anyway.
No, and Preston was 2 years younger than us. So he was like always had to be scrappy because he had to make up for that. When Aunt Laura has always helped out so much, I think mom kind of told her, listen, you got to help me with these babies all 2 at once. You can't have a kid until they're 2.
Well, I just think that's just such awesome dynamics to grow up with your twin and your cousin and you guys being so close and having so many shared memories. Kash, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Conversations with Cougars. I really appreciate your time and you sharing some of your memories.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Guys, we're going to keep coming back on Wednesday nights. There's so many Cougars I have yet to have conversations with. If you know of somebody who should be in our group, get them into our Facebook group. We've got more than 500 folks now in there, and it continues to grow. And if you have any memorabilia, videos, photos, anything you want to share from your football experiences, playing, cheering, whatever you participated in, send it to me or you post it. But please keep coming back on Wednesday nights. Kash, stick around when I sign off. I got 2 things to share with you. You guys continue to be safe. Have a good rest of your summer. We'll see you next Wednesday night. Take care.